Good evening, everybody, and yes, please subscribe so you get more dynamite shows like we're about to bring in. My name is Scott Morganroth. Welcome to Inside the Pigskin. The Motor City Madmouth is pretty much with his Motor City type crew, and the name of the show is A Hidden Gem at QB, and that hidden gem is Kory Curtis, fresh from Cape Coral, Florida. And welcome to the show, Kory. We're glad to have you tonight.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And my regulars here. We have Mel Farr Jr. Mel, welcome back.
Hey, it's great to be back. Hello, everyone.
And last but not least, we have George Eichhorn.
I'm ready for some Monday Night Football, Scott and Mel.
Yeah, we have it too. That was good. All right, well, that Monday Night Football is, like I say, a hidden gem at QB, Kory Curtis. If you haven't heard him, by the end of this show tonight, you definitely will have had an opportunity to hear about him. Let me give you a little bit of information about Kory. Obviously, he's gone to a few different schools. And why don't you just give everybody an overview of the schools, and I'll get into the numbers, Kory, as the show proceeds.
Okay. I went to Ohio State out of high school. I originally from Florida. I went to Island Coast High School. Went to Ohio State, and then I was there for 2.5 years. For my COVID year, I went to Bryant, finished my second degree, and then I was grad transferring. And they didn't have my master's program, so I transferred again, and that's where I ended up at.
Very good. So let me give everybody an overview here. I know your first coach was actually Wayne Blair, who's with the Detroit Lions. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Tell me a little bit about what you learned from Wayne Blair.
He brought me definitely some discipline, and just told me that I was on the right path, working hard and trying to outwork everybody and everything like that.
Okay, and then your second coach was a guy by the name of John Shochow, and you started at the end of the year. Give me an overview of Coach John.
Coach Woko, he was more of like an offensive guy. Coach Blair was a defensive guy. He played defense at Tulane, and then Coach Woko, he was an offensive mind. And he's like somebody from our town that's known to be good on offense. And he's like somebody that definitely learned to push the ball down the field and to be able to use my arm strength to my advantage.
So let's talk about the influence of both of those coaches on your career. I know obviously you went 5 years in college and you didn't go with your obviously you had 1 year of eligibility left. But let's talk about the influences of those individuals.
Those guys just told me to just continue to be myself. Don't change myself for nobody. I'm the type of guy that's going to fit in with pretty much anybody that I'm around. So I think that they just told me not to try to get too high or too low in any situation. And I think that helped me throughout my college career.
Okay, now you talk about going to the fact that you went to Ohio State your first 2 years. You had Coach Urban Meyer for a couple of years, Ryan Day. What was that experience like?
Well, it was a good experience. Definitely was with Coach Meyer. He said I reminded him of Tim Tebow, so that's kind of like my style of play, except I think I throw the ball a little bit better than he did. So that was good to be behind him, and he just taught me basically like the core fundamentals and values of like how to be a leader, and basically talked about like E plus R equals O all the time, and how for every event you have a response, and how you respond determines your outcome. And then Coach Day was the offensive mind, who eventually became my head coach, and he like just taught me football, every intricacy of it, and so did Coach Dennis. And so then that helped me here again because basically it's the same offense that we ran there at Ohio State.
Very good. Now, and you talk about the fact that you had the opportunity to go to the Cotton Bowl and the Rose Bowl. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. What was that experience like, being at two premium bowls that have incredible histories?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Definitely a good experience. I was able to help the defense. Imitated Sam Darnold in the Rose Bowl. And then so that was pretty cool to be able to run their offense and be able to do all that. And then the Cotton Bowl, I wasn't the scout team guy anymore, so I kind of just practiced, got some reps. Just I was the backup punter, so I did punting and all that type of stuff.
Really, you were a backup punter?
Yes, that's how I traveled as a freshman.
No kidding. Well, I'm going to get into that. You brought on an interesting point. Well, let me tell you this real quick. Many years ago, I covered the Miami Dolphins, and they brought a guy in the last round by the name of Jim Jensen, and they had two quarterbacks in that draft. And Jensen made it because he was able to play a lot more positions, and that's interesting. So you have a punter as well as a quarterback. So all right, let's go to Bryant University. It's out of Rhode Island in an FCS school, 2020. So I guess you had, you played two games, 400 and what, 35 yards. Talk about that whole situation in a 4-game season.
Yeah, so I transferred in there a little bit late. I had to learn the offense. So I played the last 2 games. Did pretty good. Played against Brown. Broke the school record in passing yards and touchdowns in the game. And then the next game, I did pretty well. Threw for 10 yards less, and we won both games.
So go over some of your stats over at Bryant.
I threw for 414 and 5 touchdowns in the first game, and then the second game I threw for 396 and I think 3 touchdowns, and had 2 rushing.
Okay. Now your next experience is Gannon University, Erie, Pennsylvania, Division II school, and you told me that you had better talent-wise over there. Go over that a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. I think the PSAC was a lot better than the schools that we played against in the NEC. The talent here was I thought a lot better of who we played against. Just the schemes, like schematically, was definitely different. But it was more physical and it's more of the style of football that I'm used to playing. So I definitely enjoyed it.
So what was interesting about what we talked about is that experience was pretty good for you because you said that the record improved every year. Is that correct? We're 2-9, 5-6, and 8-3.
Yes, sir. So when I got here, they were 2-9 and 5-6, and then the next year we were 8-3. I wasn't here for the 2-9, but we were here for the 5-6, and then the 8-3.
So at least there was improvement, and you say it was beneficial for you because you were able to call every play from the line of scrimmage, which I think is pretty impressive. Tell me what that was like, knowing that you had an opportunity to do something that most quarterbacks would not be allowed to do at a much higher level.
Definitely, it was exciting. Something that I think will help me at the next level. Definitely had to study a lot of film, know what was coming, tendencies of the coaches, everything like that. And I was thankful that my head coach here trusted me enough to be able to come to the line, just basically give me a formation, checking out of things, move people around. And so that I think that will help me for sure at the next level, like I said.
So talk about your biggest accomplishment over there.
I think just changing the culture of a program here. I think I didn't do it myself, but I think helping change it definitely was a huge accomplishment. Trying to get that, like, not the losing mentality, but definitely a mentality of complacency. I think that was huge. And then just producing on the field, I think was awesome as well.
Now you say that you always feel it's important to leave it better than you found it. Is that correct? And
Yes,
that
sir.
you trusted your decision maker over there and the change of the program culture. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we'll go over some of your stats there a little bit. Your first year, you were at 63%, 2,255 yards, 20 TDs against 7 INTs, 2022, 57%. Your yardage went up to 2879 with 27 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Boy, that is marked improvement.
Yes, sir.
Well, what do you attribute that to?
Just maturity, more playing time, just getting more comfortable underneath the head coach and calling my own stuff and being able to check in and out of things. I think definitely just bringing my completion percentage up, the yardage, and I attribute to the guys around me too. Our O-line got better. The receivers were good. Our defense put us in good situations. So I think that it was just a great experience this last year, for sure.
Well, we're getting a little activity in the chat room. Want to say hello to Joshua Bernstein. Thanks a lot for being on. And Blake Lozinski. What's going on? What's going on is us, my friend. So thanks a lot, Joshua and Blake, for being a part of it. Also, we'll talk about your total career, high school and college. 58%, 15,980, 120 touchdowns versus what? 23 interceptions. Can you believe those numbers? Those are unbelievable, George and Mel.
Yes, they are. Quite impressive, Kory, in your high school days.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was pretty good. So, what would you say that your biggest accomplishment is overall to date?
Um, beating number 8 team in the country at D2. That was a pretty big accomplishment, I think. And then we beat them. Had 6 touchdowns in that game. And then also just being able to talk about Jesus to people, I think just it's given me the platform to be able to do that, and I think that's a huge accomplishment too.
You know, I think that when pro teams, Mel, and you could probably vouch for this because you played it, but let's talk about Kory's GPA 3.8 grade point average, 3.4 with a master's. So intelligence certainly seems to be one of your stronger attributes. Mel, how important is a grade point average for a guy like Kory as he tries to take his talent to the next level?
Well, for him, and for any player, I mean, I know sometimes football players get labeled as being dumb jocks, but yeah, at that position, football players in general, but in particular at that position, you have to be very, very bright because a lot of information that you have to process in a short period of time, and that's what you're going to have to deal with at the next level is being able to process information in a short period of time and try to know where you're going to go with the football before the snap. And the way you'll know that is by looking at the defense and determining what that defense is going to do. Now they're going to show you one look pre-snap and then jump into another look at the snap of the ball. But you have to be able to process that information and know that if this happens, this is where I'm going to go with the football. If that happens, this is where I'm going to go to football. You got to know your reads, you got to know your progressions. That's one thing that you have to that requires some intelligence to be able to do that. Number one, you got to know what everybody does on the play. You got to know what all your offensive linemen are doing, and if you see something differently, you got to change the blocking scheme. You got to know what all the receivers are doing, and you have to know what the defense is going to do. So it's very important. It's a lot of information that you have to process in 24 seconds in a very, very short period of time. So that one thing that I prided myself on is being able to know what everybody did on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, I knew exactly where the ball was supposed to go. I knew where the quarterback's supposed to go to the ball. I knew what the blocking was going to be. If as a running back, if what the blocking, the blocking schemes, the defense, the gap control, then the lanes are going to be, and you can take advantage of all that stuff. But also for me, being a guy that was more on the bottom of the roster, the more you can do, the more opportunities you're going to make for yourself. So I mean, I also played, backup tight end, H-back. If a receiver was down in practice, I go jump out there at wide receiver and run the route so we can keep practice going because I knew exactly what we were supposed to do. I knew exactly what was supposed to be done on the play. So the more you can do, and I just heard you say you can punt. Don't be ashamed to get out there and show off your foot a little bit. I mean, there's been a couple guys in the league who have been backup quarterbacks, but also have been punters. I mean, Randall Cunningham was a punter. Danny White, he started out as a punter down there at the Cowboys. So Pittsburgh, Malone, I believe, was a punter, if I'm not mistaken. Was that his name, Malone? I can't remember, but there's been
Mark
a few
Malone,
guys.
I think you're right. It might have been Mark Malone.
Yeah, Mark Malone, I believe he was a punter. So I mean, there's been a few guys who've had an opportunity to make a team because they could do something else. So don't be afraid to get out there and show off your leg a little bit.
Sir.
Yeah, I should point out that Kory is 6'4", 236 pounds. So when you talk about the fact that you didn't go to the combine, but you did go to pro days, but I'll get to that in a moment because I think it's important to let everybody know who your idols are as well. You say your idols are Joe Burrow and Pat Mahomes. Is that right? That you would love to sit behind those guys?
Yes, those would be great guys to learn behind. I was already behind Joe before.
You got a couple of winners right there, man.
For sure.
All right, I should point out, everybody, that the audio version of Inside the Pigskin can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune, okay? We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Also, please comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Send topic ideas to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. And if you want to advertise, no problem. Call me at 954-304-4941. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter as well as YouTube. All right, so we talked about Mahomes that you'd like to sit behind. You say that you play like Ben Roethlisberger.
That's what I've been told. But definitely definitely welcome to contact. I'm gonna break tackles. I'm gonna be one of the stronger quarterbacks that you probably have seen. And I pride myself on that.
Okay, now you're not alone with this one, but you said your favorite quarterback of all time is Peyton Manning.
Definitely. Definitely. I always strive to be cerebral like him, definitely at the quarterback position. And that's something I think that this offense has helped me even get better at, and my decision making, processing everything, making sure, checking the safeties, all that type of stuff, and just being able to process things fast.
Okay, so let's talk about how you managed to get a pro day. Let's face the reality, you come from a Division II school. You said a guy by the name of Mike Butler and Duquesne arranged the whole thing. Please elaborate.
So I was at the FCS Bowl in Daytona Beach, Florida, and I played there. And Mike Butler, he's a scout for the Steelers. He goes, hey, are you gonna go to any All-Star game? And I was like, yes, sir. I said I got invited to the Tropicana Bowl, and I got invited to the CGS game. And then so I went to the CGS game. I went there and I did well. I threw 4 touchdowns against some Division I competition. So I did pretty well there. Got to work under center, which is something that a couple teams said that they wanted to see me do. And he asked me, he's like, "Where are you going to your pro day?" And I was like, "Well, I've been trying to get into a pro day, but like everybody has like their quarterback, or they're having their junior quarterback throw and stuff like that." And he was like, "Well, let me make a couple calls." And about 2 weeks later, he's like, "Hey, I got you into the Duquesne pro day." So it's just So then he was like, "Yeah," I put my name in there. I put my name in there and said, "Yeah, I was going." And so then I went to the Duquesne pro day.
Okay, now you say 4 teams worked you out afterwards: the Texans, the Dolphins, the Steelers, and the Colts. What was that experience like working out for those guys?
It was good. So the first 20 minutes of the pro day went very good. I missed one throw that I was able to throw again when they worked me out. I mean, I rolled out to the right and threw a little bit too high. The workouts went good. Just basically just working on things that they thought that I need to work on. Mostly moving on the run, throwing on the run, and everything like that. And they said for my tape, my platform has gotten skinnier and stuff like that. So that's something that they are glad that they thought that was a knock on me because it made my delivery a little bit long. But now that I've shortened it up, they were definitely interested. And I threw the ball 84 yards. And that's when, after that, like everybody else like asked me to work out after and stuff like that. So it was exciting.
Well, amazingly enough, the Dolphins have an issue at quarterback with Tua Tagovailoa and his concussion issue. So I guess it's probably no surprise that they might be looking for insurance somewhere along the lines, and they're not afraid to reach out for prospects, as we found out with Skylar Thompson. Did any of these teams talk to you afterwards and interview you? And what did you get out of each and every one of the teams that did speak to you on a more direct level?
Yeah, basically I just got like my draft grades and everything like that from them. Definitely I've been in contact with them since. More of like getting to know me, getting to know my family, getting to know like what type of person I am off the field. And then they talked to me about like the things I can improve on, which is like my platform. And then once they asked me to send videos of everything, and I've been doing that. And so then everything's just been going good. Just getting to know them basically, and just staying in touch.
So you say at that pro day, 11 teams were in attendance. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So what was it like to have 11 teams there, even though you formally spoke to 4 of them?
It was a good experience. I'm just thankful that I got to throw in front of people. I think that's something that I feel like maybe not a lot of people know my name or any at all, but once they see me throw in person, it's something that I definitely catch their eye. I don't think there's a quarterback with a stronger arm. I'm humbly say that in the draft. And I pride myself on accuracy and just being able to be personable and everything like that. And I think once they get to talk to me and see me throw, I think they start to love me.
Well, amazingly enough, when you tell me that, okay, and I look at the fact that you didn't have the combine to work with, does that bother you that you never were at the combine? Because I know George and I can joke around about Dan Campbell and Mel's even mentioned it, that the combine, all it is was basically what, shirts and a t-shirt anyway, so there's really not a whole lot. Do you feel like you missed out on much, or you think the pro days were far better and more beneficial than what the combine could have been like?
I mean, obviously, everybody wants to go to the combine. It's like what everybody looks forward to. But I've also had friends from my hometown that's gone to the combine and not got drafted. And like Sammy Watkins he was from my hometown. He got invited, but he didn't go. And he just produced at his pro day. And he ended up having to getting drafted and everything like that. So I liked the pro day atmosphere because definitely it was just like focused on me throwing. I appreciated that, and I just was grateful for the teams to be there and give me the chance to be able to throw in front of them. And I had some great receivers. I had Dwayne Brown from IUP. He was a 1,000-yard receiver every year that he was in college, and then Dwayne Menders from Duquesne. That was pretty good too. So they made me look good.
Okay, a few other things I want to get to, then I'm going to turn it over to George and Mel. You're a 3-sport athlete, is that correct?
That was, yes.
And what sports did you play in?
Basketball and baseball.
Which one did you like the best?
I'm probably the best at baseball, but I like basketball and I love football, so it's one of those things that's tough.
Okay, so now you have an opportunity to sell teams as to why they should actually draft you this year. What would you tell them?
Obviously, I'm going to be going in as a quarterback 3 practice squad guy, somebody that's going to make the team better. I'm going to push the guys in front of me, but I'm also going to try to be the starter every day. I'm going to work to be the starter every single day, and I'm not going to let anybody outwork me. And I know that's a cliche, but that's something that I pride myself on. I can fit in with anybody, and then also you're not going to have any issues with me on or off the field.
Well, that's good. Okay, now
I can play some ball.
Well, that's what they want to hear, and that's what they want to see for sure. And with a guy like yourself, where you're in everything to gain, nothing to lose situation, nobody can ever label you as a bust because obviously you're not as heralded as a lot of the guys that potentially could be drafted on the first night of the draft, which is on April 27th. So you talk about the small school versus big school journey to the pros. Explain to me what that experience is like for you to know that, hey, you know what, there's David and Goliath, small versus big school. Do you really relish that kind of thing?
Yeah, I like it. I always root for the underdog. I'm definitely the underdog in this scenario, but I also, like you said, I think it's everything to gain, nothing to lose. I was there with JT Barrett, Dwayne Haskins, and Joe Burrow, and I was right there side by side with them every single day in competitions. Joe was my partner in Matt drills. I competed against him every single day, and it was back and forth. Definitely didn't get the best of me. So that's something that I pride myself in because I know that I can play at the next level. I played against the starting defense there every single day. So I know I can complete a ball against Denzel Ward. I know that I know I can break Jerome Baker's tackle, and I know I can get out of the way of Nick Bosa. I know I can do those things. I just have to be able to prove it on a Sunday or in practice.
Well, I got to tell you, Kory, got some people in Miami that want you to come down there. Blake Lozinski, best of luck to you. I hope you get drafted to the Dolphins. And Joshua Bursing, hell yeah. So there you go. Who knows? Maybe people do. You're only a couple of hours away off of I-75 in Alligator Alley. So you talked about it on Bo Crouch's show, and now I definitely want the same comment here. You have the XFL versus the USFL. Didn't you say that you thought the XFL was a better league?
Oh no, I think that I like the rules in XFL, but I would play in both. I don't mind. Obviously, I an opportunity to play football at professional level is something that not a lot of people get to do, and that's something that I'd be blessed to be able to do.
Well, I can tell you right now, with all due respect, the USFL is at a good time because you've got 10 weeks to go, and they'll probably be done by mid-June anyways. So, and then NFL training camps start up shortly thereafter. So, all right, with that said, obviously I'm going to let George Eichhorn ask you a bunch of questions. I appreciate George and Mel allowing me to get these out, and Mel and George, have at it.
Well, yeah, first of all, I'm honored to be on here with you and talk about your future. A lot of times we hear about the term developmental quarterback. What do you think of that term as far as how it relates to the NFL teams?
it's just like it just gives you a chip on your shoulder. There's people that have to be developmental and they end up doing great. Brock Purdy was the developmental guy, and when he got his chance, he made the most of it. So it's something that I know that I'm not going to have a high value going in, but by the time I leave, I want to be able to have a high value by the time I leave.
Yeah, and a situation like Detroit, I'm surprised that, and maybe they were one of the 11 there because they have a situation where they've got a veteran, Jared Goff, but they don't have much depth at quarterback at all. The Lions have kind of gotten away with it. Not just this regime. I'm talking about previous regimes too, as Mel and Scott knows. They have not been very good at always having a capable backup quarterback. So there's a lot of rumors, like even in Detroit, that they're going to draft somebody, maybe not in the first round because they have those 2 first-round picks, but in one of the later rounds. What about a city like Detroit?
I don't mind. If I get a chance to play ball, I'm gonna go play ball. That's just who I am. It doesn't matter where I am.
Yeah, and the other thing is I used to be the announcer. We've got Division II right here in Detroit too, Wayne State University,
Okay.
which is located just a couple miles, as Mel knows, right from Ford Field in Detroit. And I'm with you, my friend, because I've seen players come out of that Division II. We got a school in Michigan called Ferris State University that just won a championship this year at D2. So I agree with Scott, what he said. There's a lot of potential. Don't give me none of that, and don't use that as an excuse, as I know you won't, Kory. The D2 has a lot of good talent.
Especially with the transfer portal, like a lot of people have had to move down. Like Slippery Rock's defense, all 4 of their secondary were drop downs from Notre Dame, one was from Wisconsin. They have a DB that's coming out. He was at Nebraska. So there was definitely played against some talent.
For sure. Sure. Mel?
Yeah, the one thing you have to be mindful of when you get out there, and not to put any pressure on you, but you have to understand that you have to. You're not going to get very many opportunities to prove that you can play. Okay, whereas a guy who is a high draft pick, he's going to have plenty of opportunities to prove that he cannot play. You understand the difference?
Yes, sir.
They're going to give him way more opportunities to prove that he was a bust versus, you giving you an opportunity to prove that you deserve that opportunity. So make sure you know your stuff. That's the most important thing. Make sure you know your stuff. If you bust, make sure you bust full speed. Don't, that's what I thought it was. Don't never bust and or make a mental error. Make sure that you know your stuff and that when you come out there that you're prepared. The one thing, and I know you played at Ohio State, so you know what the speed is going to be like, but the speed is going to be a lot different, obviously, than what you're playing against right now. The bodies are going to be a lot different, but you know that playing at Ohio State, you know what the bodies are going to look like. And they move a lot faster. They get you a lot faster. Those windows they close quicker. Open is not necessarily wide open. In college, you see guys running wide open. You don't see guys running wide open in the NFL. Guy, if somebody's on your back right here and you put the ball out here, that guy's open. Now they got 50-50 balls. They want you to throw it up there. If he's a receiver and they feel real good about him and his opportunities against the DB, they want you to throw it up there. It's a 50-50 ball and see if your guy can come down with it. Those are the type of throws that you're going to have, that maybe you may or may not have done in the past that you're going to have to do going forward. So just make sure that you know your stuff when you get out there and, just give it everything you had, give it everything that you possibly have and, hold nothing back. Don't play scared. These guys put their pants on just like you do, one leg at a time. They're no different. I know you might go in there and you might be starstruck by some of the people you see, like, man, I remember watching that guy when I was in junior high school and so forth and so on. I mean, I can tell you some legends that I played against and even some that I played with. And, but you can't be starstruck. You got to feel like you belong. That's the biggest thing is feel like you belong. And you'll do it right. Let the chips fall where they may.
It's interesting how we talk about Tom Brady. How much, Kory, do you draw off of the fact that Tom Brady has had so much success, and yet he was, 6th round, 199, I think it was? So great quarterbacks can fall anywhere. They don't have to be on day one of the draft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like we were saying earlier, quarterback position is the hardest position to be able to like evaluate. So definitely they're going to miss, and there's going to be people that fall through the cracks. And I think that I could be one of those guys. Like you said, the speed's definitely going to be faster. You're definitely going to have bigger guys coming at you. The windows are going to be shorter. But it's something that I'm not going to back away from. I don't back away from anything. And then I've definitely been there. I've thrown to Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave and had Jeremy Ruckert at tight end, been able to have those guys block for me. So I'm definitely just excited to be out there and just not necessarily excited. I'm ready. Like I've been training for this my whole life.
And a point that Mel made before we were on the air is very important now with the XFL, the USFL. You got the Canadian Football League, of course, that's already in progress. But what I'm saying is that there's so many opportunities out there, and Scott has talked to us about that as well on different shows. And again, I know your focus is on NFL. It's got to be on NFL. You have to be ready for the Premier League of all. But there are a lot of opportunities out there, and do not get discouraged. And like Mel was saying, sometimes some of the best ones don't get drafted and are invited to different camps. And I'm sure you've thought about this already too, Kory.
Yes, sir.
So Kory,
I was going to ask him a question. So what do you think is your strong suit? Like I know coming from UCLA, one thing that guys used to always say to us, or we felt real comfortable, we talk amongst one another, is the coaching that we had at UCLA that prepared us for the NFL. Because there were certain things that we had to do before we even were able to get on the field. I mean, if you didn't know the defenses that you were playing against, you weren't going to be able to play on Saturday. And I don't care how talented of an athlete that you were. And we had some extremely talented guys, but you had to be able to know exactly what you saw on first down, second down, and third down. So the first thing the position coach is going to ask us when we come off the field is, what was the defense on first down? What was the defense on second down? What was the defense on third down? If it was a 3-and-out situation. And we had to be able to recite that. And if we couldn't recite it, you're not getting out there. And the reason being is obviously because blocking. The quarterback, in the blocking game, the passing game, you got to know who you're going to pick up on pass protection. So for you, when you're in the huddle, you get the play called in or it's signed in, however you guys get the play in. And when you get up to the line of scrimmage, what is your thought process at that particular time?
So when I would just get a formation, and I would check down front, where we're getting over under front. We got 3 Oki front, so I would decide, okay, so do we have numbers in the box? So then I go look at the safeties. Are they on level, off level? And so I see what type of defense I'm going to expect. Okay, it's 3rd and long. This team probably runs quarters against this. Maybe cover 2 Tampa. And so definitely, I'm definitely a student of the game, and I definitely think that's something that is a strong suit that I've had to do it at a fast paced and bit level and stuff like that. Change people around, people in motion, while I'm calling everything. So I think that's going to help me at the next level. And then my arm strength, I definitely think that's something that's going to open some eyes and everything like that.
All right, well, you know what? It's a curse because you're going to be able to think you can put it in windows, and those windows aren't going to be the same type of windows that you had when you're playing at the D2 level. So be careful. Do you anticipate your throw? Or do you have to see it first before you throw it?
No, I definitely anticipate.
So like when you and I don't know how they do it in college. And are you reading one side of the field versus the other, or you have a progression that you follow?
So we did a little bit of both. We had full field progressions, and we had some half field reads. So 1 high, 2 highs. Obviously, look at the safeties, see if they roll. Those are easy. The full field progressions. Those are like the bread and butter. Kind of run like the Chip Kelly, Denton Bible type of stuff, with the wide cross and the drive and everything like that. So if they're a little bit covered, you kind of know what coverage you're going to get. Like, okay, if they're in zone, we're going to get this. We got to anticipate, not predetermine, but anticipate where we're going with the ball. And that's something that I was very good at. Turning the ball over is an issue that I've never had an issue with. I think overall I've thrown 120 touchdowns and 20 interceptions. So I think that's something that will continue to happen because I will study and know everybody's tendencies. I'm kind of a freak about it.
So we got a question out of the chat room by Joshua Bernstein. Okay, where do you want to go? Any particular team you really love to play for? Every quarterback or every player dreams of some place that they'd like to go. Do you have one?
I think it would be cool to be home back in Miami. I also think that The Steelers would be a good fit. Kind of a hard-nosed quarterback is my playing style, and I think that the Steelers need that. And also just like truly a place that will give me an opportunity is somewhere I'd love to go. I'm not picky. I could play for any team that needs me, obviously.
You mentioned Roethlisberger earlier, and boy, yeah, I'll tell you what, I've always admired that guy. I mean, you talk about the old rust bucket cities, Detroit, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, but Ben, boy, he went to work. He was tough as nails. He played through a lot of injuries and all that. Why do you identify, or why did you like to identify with Ben?
I'm a bigger guy, a younger Ben. I can move a little bit. I'm tough. I played on the broken fibula for the last 5 games of the season. So I'm definitely somebody that will play through things. I'm not going to let my team down, and I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight, and I'm going to fight, and I'm going to win the game.
All right, I want to go back to the chat room. Joshua, great question. Blake, we appreciate you. I hope you guys will share this show and subscribe as well so that we have more great questions like you guys have provided. You got tonight, Joshua Bernstein and Blake Lozinski are unofficial guests in the chat room, so we call them the stars of the chat room. We're having fun on there. These guys are behind the scenes, and they're contributing mightily and greatly. Thank you so much, Josh and Blake. So, I mean, that's really what it's all about. I mean, I've always been intrigued by the Dolphins situation because they ended up bringing – who did they bring? The backup quarterback from the Jets, I think, this year, Mike White.
Mike White.
Right. So, with all due respect, you got to believe that with Tua's concussion issues, they have about a year or two left. So they've got to be thinking and being proactive, which is why you ended up, if you draw between the lines, why those 4 teams in general worked you out.
Definitely. Yeah. So I'm excited about it. I think that Miami would be a great fit. I like Coach McDaniel's offense. And got a couple friends that play on the team, so I definitely would feel comfortable going in there and learning the playbook because I've seen it. So it's something that I think I could pick up pretty easily.
Kory, what do you think about the tendency? Has been so great the last number of years, the running quarterbacks, the rushing quarterbacks. What do you think about that tendency that the league has kind of gone through in the last half dozen or so years? I mean, there are exceptions. I know Brady wasn't that good a runner, Aaron Rodgers, but so many of them nowadays seem to be, multiple threat.
Yeah. I mean, growing up in high school, we used to go watch Lamar play in high school. So that was like something that was exciting to go watch, and he's a beast, and he should get his money. Jalen Hurts is a guy he is his whole offense. He is the epitome of the Eagles offense. I think that if you can run, it brings a whole nother level to the offense, and I think that's awesome, and I love that. I also think that as a pocket passer, I'm not going to be putting my body on the line as much as somebody that does go and run. So I think that I could last longer. But like these guys are doing it. Like Jalen Hurts ran the ball a ton last year, and he didn't. He was pretty healthy. I mean, he hurt his shoulder, but he just has to learn to slide and everything like that. Lamar stayed pretty healthy until he got hurt. So I think these guys that can run obviously bring another aspect to the game. But I also think that as a pocket passer, it doesn't hurt me.
Yeah, there's no longevity to that, though. So, being able to move around in the pocket is the key. Obviously, as you know, moving around, sliding here, sliding there, like Tom Brady does, getting the ball out quick, and let those guys get paid to do what they get paid to do. They get paid to move the football down the field, to make the plays, break a tackle, and so forth and so on. And your job is to get the ball to them. Your job is a distributor. And their job is to make the plays with the ball once you get the ball to them. But you have to get the ball to them. That's the key.
Yes, sir. And I'm like a point guard on the offense, so I just got to get the ball to my playmakers, let them make their plays. Like Brock Purdy did this year. He has the dudes around him. He got the ball to them. They made their plays, and they went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you extend the play with your legs. Give your receivers an opportunity. I mean, they can't cover guys forever. Yeah. And if you're able to extend the plays with your legs or slide around in the pocket to avoid the rush, get the ball to your playmakers, you're going to play a lot longer that way than you would playing the way Lamar plays and playing the way Jalen plays. And I love both players, and I'm happy for both players, particularly Jalen getting his money. Hopefully, like you said, Lamar will get his money as well. But there's a long. They eventually they're going to have to learn how to make more plays from the pocket and just use their legs to extend plays and to move around the pocket.
Sure.
Corey, I like your analogy saying that you're the point guard of the offense. That's a really good analogy because I think a quarterback has to really go out there and think like a point guard because if the ball's in your hands, it's like the pitcher, and then the catcher. And I caught that when I was a baseball player, but that's a great analogy. So let's move things up on April 27th and the rest of those days. Where are you going to be, especially on day one of the draft? Obviously, you don't plan to get drafted on the first day, but maybe the second or third. But what's your draft day going to be like during the week and the weekend?
So I'll be working out on the 27th. I'm going to try to work out all day. And then the 28th, I'll be with my family and my fiance. And then on the 29th, she has a game. And so we'll be watching the game. And then by the time our game's over, we'll come home, shower, and go to B-Dubs. So we'll be at B-Dubs by the time.
So you really don't – do you plan to watch the draft very much or not?
Yes, we're going to watch it. So we're going to go out to eat. And then by the time we're done eating, the draft should be starting. And then we'll be here.
Hopefully you get drafted, you won't have to watch it so much.
For sure.
Yeah, no.
Hopefully some team will take you out of your misery early.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
Well, hey, what do you think, Kory, about the draft moving around? It's exciting for the fans, isn't it? Kansas City this year, and of course my hometown and Scott's hometown and Mel's, Detroit, Michigan. We get it next year. Isn't that a great idea by the league to move that draft around?
Yeah, I think it's cool, and it gives the fans a different experience to be able to go and from different cities that might not be able to travel that far and be able to go see the draft and everything like that. So it's exciting.
It's really come a long ways. I mean, you think back, Mel, when you and your dad were drafted. I mean, my goodness. I mean, it was just a small little affair, let's say in New York. It was Scott and I would cover it at the Lions facility or whatever. But, it's just magnificent what's happened. The explosion of talent and mock drafts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 versions of mock drafts. America loves its football, no question about it. And obviously you do too.
Yeah, the NFL's done a great job with it. I think when I was playing, I don't think the entire draft was televised. I can't remember. It might have been rounds 1 through 5 or something like that.
Yeah, Mel.
Because back then, I think there was 12 rounds, 12 or 13 rounds when I came out. That was the last.
You drafted 88, right?
Or it was the second to last year of the 13-round draft. I think it was the second to last year when I came out. So I think only the first 5 rounds were drafted. After that, you just had to wait for the phone to ring.
Mm-hmm.
So Kory, let's talk about. Well, we got to talk about Aaron Rodgers. You glad that thing is over with the Jets finally? Did you get sick and tired of hearing about it after a while?
Yeah, I knew that he was. I pretty much knew that he was going there, so it wasn't something that I even worried about. I just knew that the Packers like me, and I've been talking to them, so I'm glad that one of the quarterbacks are out of that room, so that I can maybe have the opportunity to go there too.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting point. Now, Rodgers is now with the Jets. Has there been much discussion about you going to Green Bay at all? You're certainly not afraid of cold weather because you played up on the East Coast.
Yeah, I talked to them quite a bit. They've talked to my agent quite a bit, so just
really
kind of like a wait and see kind of moment.
And that's a great franchise. Obviously, what a great history they've had with Bart Starr and Aaron Rodgers. And I tell you what, that would be it'd be sure a lot different weather, like Scott said, than Southern Florida. But we have a great rivalry here in Detroit, obviously, with the Packers, the Bears, and the Vikings.
All right, so our focus has been on football, but let's just say hypothetically the football thing doesn't work out, although I know you have many more opportunities than most people have in the past. Have you thought about what life would be like after football, and what do you want to get into?
I'd probably want to go be a PA or go into like genetic counseling.
Interesting.
Would you consider any other sports? As we have seen, multiple athletes have left one sport and gone to the other one. If you're so inclined,
I could probably be a PO in baseball, but I haven't pitched in 5 years, so I don't know how good I'd be at it or anything like that anymore. So it definitely had to be something I'd work at. I could definitely throw hard enough. I was throwing mid-90s in high school. So
did you really? Wow. Anything you got, George and Mel, you want to add, Kory?
No, sir.
Well, I just want to tell you that what Mel said to you earlier, I mean, just have a lot of confidence, and there's a lot of teams out there with a lot of needs, and the depth chart on quarterback is a short one. We all know that, but teams definitely need to look at a lot of candidates, and there's so many teams out there, as you know, that are looking for quarterbacks, and also the USFL, XFL, CFL, and leagues like that as well.
Well, it's funny. You talk about the CFL. I'm sorry, Mel.
No, go ahead.
But it's a much different style of ball with 3 downs. Can you ever imagine what it would be like for you, Kory, to play in the Canadian Football League? Let's not kid yourself. Doug Flutie and Warren Moon have played. I mean, it's a wider field, a longer field. But tell me what it would be like for Kory Curtis in the Canadian Football League.
So I've definitely been talking to some CFL teams and told them that like we're just going to wait until after the draft and everything like that. I think that would benefit me for my arm strength and everything like that. So I think the CFL would be a good experience. But like any experience to play football, like I'm down for. Just go out there and get people and make plays.
But that's a different animal. You got the end zone there is probably the infield of a baseball field. I'm just kidding with you.
It's definitely beneficial for the quarterback at the CFL is. It's like 7-on-7 out there. It's a huge field, and you should go out there and sling the rock.
Yeah,
well, I guess. Forward.
Yeah, Canada talks about it being far and wide, but with all due respect, the field is far and wide too. So, it's just George brought up an interesting point, and before you had the XFL, the USFL, a lot of players were looking to go to the CFL if they could to fine tune their game. And now you have, obviously, you're in a fortunate position that you have more leagues to work with. So I just thought George brought up an interesting point. Go ahead, Mel. Before I cut you off, I had to get the CFL thing out there. Go ahead.
No, that's all right. And I think it's good. Like I said before we got on air, that I think it's good that they have these developmental leagues. I think it's going to improve the play, especially at that position, the most important position. You look at some of these teams that had trouble at that position, and what they had as a backup, and these guys don't have any live reps. The play just goes down, and then you have some guys who are journeymen who just go from team to team to team as a backup quarterback, and even though they've gotten some live reps in the NFL competition, they just aren't very, very good. So having that opportunity to get those live reps is critical if in the event things don't work out in the NFL. It's funny you had mentioned that baseball was your better sport. My dad always thought baseball was my better sport too. But here, do the math. I'm gonna tell you to do the math. That's what you have to do when you go to camp and you're a smart guy. You do the math. I think they have 90 guys. I think they can sign 90 guys. 90 guys. They have 90 guys who are running around during spring and stuff like that in the summer. I think they only take 80 guys to camp. Is that correct? I think it's 80 guys, or do they up it to 90? I can't remember. I think it used to be at 80 at one time.
90 from what the last I've heard.
So they take 90 guys to camp. So it's a 53-man roster now. Plus they have 10 guys in the practice squad, right? So that's 63 guys are going to make the team, right?
Right.
So that means they're going to cut what? 27 folks?
Yes.
Yep. Like that.
Okay, so it's 27 folks. So there's how many people in the quarterback room? Some teams carry 3, some teams carry 2. Some teams carry 3. They keep one inactive. They dress 2. They're going to have a guy on the practice squad because they want an arm on the practice squad. So you don't need to worry about being the starter. You have to be worried about your job is to get the last guy's job. That's what your job. Whoever's number 3 or number 2, that's who you have to eye, and that's who you're competing against is that guy. The starter's job is the starter's job. Now he goes down, he gets hurt. Guess what? You got to be ready because all of a sudden you're the starter now, or you're the backup.
And you're one play away.
You're one play away from getting in there, so you got to be ready. So the key is look at the numbers. Look at the numbers in the room when you're making your decision. If you don't get drafted, look at those numbers, see what those numbers look like, and see where where your style of football, your style of play would be showcased the best. What offensive scheme, what type of how is the franchise, the stability of the franchise, all those kind of things may come into play. I mean, you may want to go to a place that the franchise isn't all that stable, that doesn't really have a quarterback, or you want to go somewhere who has established quarterback who you can learn from. So look at all those things, but understand the numbers and understand what your job is and what it is you're trying to do. You're just trying to get that last guy's job. That's what you're concerned about. Don't worry about trying to be the starter coming out of camp. Just worry about that last guy. Just look at the numbers, play the numbers in your favor, and I think you're going to have a great shot because you look good getting off the bus. I mean, you look the part. That's key. You look the part. Now you got to play the part.
For sure.
All right, I should point out once again, the audio version of Inside the Pigskin can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. That's our first goal. Please also comment, like, and share the show broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Send your topic ideas to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com, or you can send them through me on Twitter at Tribune South. If you want to advertise, no, feel free to give me a call back at 954-304-4941. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. So my Twitter handle is at Tribune South, and that you can get us your ideas, questions for Kory, and then any questions you have for Kory, I'll definitely convey them as well. So any closing thoughts before we wrap this thing up, George?
No,
Kory?
it's an exciting time. It's an exciting week. And Kory, we want to wish you the best of luck. And there's just stay positive like I know you are. Keep those reps going. Practice, work out as much as you can, and good things will happen.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mel, anything you want to add, Kory?
Make sure you know the words to your fight song.
Okay.
Oh, that is funny.
That's a good one, Mel.
No, Mel always throws a good one in, and he just living the part like he's telling Kory to live the. That was good. It's not worthy of knocking my hat off, but it was definitely a timely comment. So, with that said, whether you know it or not, Kory, we have an author on the show. So, George, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you and talk about your book?
I've been around so long, Kory, that I wrote the book about Detroit sports broadcasters. And I can remember when Mel Farr's dad put a cape on and he flew in the air in Detroit. And you think I'm making up. I'm not. Mel's wonderful father, his late dad, was a great salesman, a good car man. He loved the Ford Motor Company and did a great job, of course, as a Detroit Lion. But my book, Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air, is available. There's a link to it on the South Florida Tribune website. I write for Scott under the Motor City Tribune banner and locally the Downtown Monitor. And I also can be reached at gicorn@yahoo.com. Scott's in the book, too. I can't forget because Scott interviewed two great guys. Wow. Jimmy Connors and Muhammad Ali. It doesn't get a lot better than that. I'm telling you, we've got some great photos in that book. So it's been great to be on the show tonight. You can also reach me on Twitter at SanGSports99.
Beautiful. All right, Mel, what about you? Let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Get a hold of me on all the social media at Mel Farr Jr., Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and the other one, Instagram, and find out what we have going on here in Georgia and also up in Detroit for the youth at melfar.org.
Okay, I should also point out other information that you can go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Candy Ebling does a great job putting the shows on as well as the continuous content. We definitely are thankful that she's a really big participant. And she wishes you luck as well, Kory. So you have a lot of fans here on this. I should also point out that Kory has done a really good job on this show. So he's going to be a friend of the show talking football, and we will be bringing him back probably in about a week or two to find out where the guy lands, and he'll always be able to provide his insight and knowledge anytime he wants to come on our network under the different types of shows that we have to offer. Kory, with the assistance of Bo Crouch, who goes by Football with Bo on Twitter, it was a great opportunity to send you questions and then talk to you afterwards. And I'm glad that we had an opportunity to bring you on our show as well. And the next time you come on, you'll have George and I, and then we'll bring Bo on. Then we'll have an idea where you're going to be going. So, we definitely are looking forward to having you on as an analyst. Today it was an opportunity to get you out there a little bit, and hopefully you'll have a lot of people. You have a lot of people in your corner, anyways. So we're going to be paying attention to the draft to see where Kory Curtis does indeed go. So, meanwhile, on behalf of Kory Curtis, George Eichhorn, and Mel Farr Jr., my name is Scott Morgan. We're out the Motor City Madmouth. Thanking you for joining us on this edition of Inside the Pigskin. And we're going to have a really busy week talking about the National Football League. So Kory, thanks again for being with us here tonight. George and Mel, as usual, my thanks are always in line. And we are out.